I hereby convene the regularly scheduled May 14, 2013 Westchester Township Trustee meetings. Roll call.
Mr. Wong.
Present.
Mrs. Stoker.
Here.
Mr. Lang.
Here.
Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Thank you. I must state for the record that I have to leave about 6:30 tonight to attend the Butler County EMA meeting. Citizens comment. We have Mr. Bruce Jones sign up. Okay. Bruce.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Bruce Jones. I live at 5685 McCarthy Court. And next on the agenda is the action item is to address the last meeting minutes that I submitted, and consequently, whereas I'm prohibited from commenting during discussion about those minutes, I needed to speak at this time, and whereas I submitted those a draft copy of those minutes to you, I believe it was 11 days ago. We've had discussion about the process previously, and regrettably I received input but 5 hours ago as far as proposed changes, and though they were sent to you 11 days ago. And inasmuch as I've been told I should be accountable for the accuracy of them, I really haven't been given an opportunity to review them in the last 5 hours. I've been busy, and at first blush, it would appear I didn't have any issue with what I saw in them, but I can't guarantee that, and I can't guarantee the accuracy of when you submit these changes that you're going to vote on and approve without my input, let alone vote. And I would ask, just as a professional courtesy and good government, and we all want that perhaps you could commit to providing me with your proposed changes X number of days after receipt of the minutes that I send to you. I believe previously you said that you could do that 7 days after I sent them to you. And if that's not possible for you to respond in a timely manner, then perhaps the proper course of action would be to delay action on the minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mrs. Boyko, presentation.
First, on the board's consideration to defer the proclamations, the reading of the proclamations and presentation of the proclamations until the right after the second citizens' comments. Before the second citizens' comments, in the essence of you needing to leave in advance and would like to get some of the business items accomplished.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to item D. Motion to approve trustee meeting minutes, April 23rd, 2013.
Now, I was the one who submitted some changes with respect to...
Make a motion for discussion?
Oh, thank you very much.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Yeah, I was one who submitted those changes so tardy. I have to apologize. As you know, my husband's been desperately ill and been taking a great deal of my time. He's getting much better, I'm glad to say. So hopefully I'll be able to attend to these sooner. But we all have priorities, and family comes before minutes. I apologize. I have no problem if everybody would like to wait until the next meeting. I don't know that there's anything urgent. We could check with Mrs. Boyko if there's something urgent.
I would like to wait if you sent changes. I haven't even seen them yet.
I sent them last night about 1 o'clock, I think.
Okay. You have no problem?
No, I have no problem waiting.
So, all right.
So the motion is on the table to approve the minutes. Do you want to amend that motion?
Yep, I will pull my motion, and my motion will be that I'll make the motion that we table this until our next meeting.
I'll amend my second then as well.
Okay. We don't need to, we do still need to vote?
Yeah, since the motion.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to vote on the motion.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Okay. Item E, motion to approve payment of bills.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Mrs. Boyko, requisitions greater than $2,500.
There are a few requisitions greater than $2,500 for the board's consideration. Item 1 is an administration item to the Ohio State University in the amount of $4,550.65. This is to renew the annual service and support for ORNet VMware server utilization. As the board is aware, we transferred to a virtualized server system pretty much holistically several years ago, close to 10 years ago, and the virtual servers, the application of the virtual servers allows us to reduce our physical hardware of the server and also physical replacement costs for that physical hardware. Item 2 is another administration item, $2,567.50. Another IT measure, Data Processing Science Corp., and this is to renew the annual support and licensing agreement for the Intrascan messaging security system. I thought this was interesting is that over the last, I believe it was, I apologize, my system is not forwarding. Thank you. Over the last month, April 2013, there was a summary report that we had 240,221 incoming emails. And of the 240,000, 205,000 were identified as spam. So that monthly. So this system ensures that those spam filters are robust and that these types of inefficient emails do not enter our system. Item 3 is fire. Assistant Chief Rick Prince is for reimbursement tuition per the Township's policy in the amount of $2,952. And item 4 is services, $20,000 to Valley Asphalt Corporation. This is to purchase pavement materials for in-house repair of various township streets. $20,000 was budgeted for this line item, and as you know, as we prepare for the paving program, there are kind of nips and tucks that need to be repaired in our pavement in preparation for the paving.
Okay, I will entertain motion for item 1 through 4.
I move we approve items 1 through 4.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Roll call, Mr. Jones?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item G, Ms. Boyko, personnel item.
This is a motion to hire. As the board is aware, you have approved previously a complement of 12 seasonal employees for various community services endeavors and tasks. At this time, we're requesting the board's consideration to hire 1 April through October seasonal employee, Mr. Thomas Shannon III, in the Parks Division, and effective May 1st, 2013, and hire 3 May through September seasonal employees, Mr. Mike Capella in the Roads Division, effective May 7th, 2013, Mr. Zachary Abner in the Parks Division, effective May 8th, 2013, and Mr. Zachary Reiner, Roads Division, effective May 20th, 2013. All of these seasonal positions are at the hourly rate of $11.25.
Okay, I will entertain the motion for item 5.
I'll make the motion that we approve item 5.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Business items.
The Board of Trustees, item number 6, the Board of Trustees has experienced with the Trex liquor permit process and has twice before authorized a letter of acknowledgement for a Trex liquor permit license. As the Board is aware, the Ohio Division of Liquor Control allows the transfer of liquor permits from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction in the efforts to promote economic development initiatives. The transfers do not count against the per capita of the traditional liquor permit process. The subject proprietor, J. Gumbo, Westchester LLC, holds a liquor permit in Springfield Township and proposes to transfer that liquor permit to an establishment plan for Westchester. Accordingly, J. Gumbo's Westchester LLC is doing business as J. Gumbo's is applying for an economic development Trex liquor permit pursuant to the applicable statute. The Police Department and Community Development Department have engaged in this process. The Police Department determines based on its initial research that there is no concern or would have any adverse effect on law enforcement or public safety and has done some preliminary research at the establishment in Springfield Township currently. The Community Development Department has determined that this would fill a soon-to-be vacant space, and by engaging this allowing this particular transfer and filling of this vacant, potentially, or planned vacant space, it would continue the economic development and endeavors of that particular strip center. So there is a sample motion for the board's consideration at the bottom of the memorandum, and request the board to so direct.
A motion to acknowledge J. Gambo's Restaurant as a designated and continuing economic development project and to allow the Trex liquor permit transfer without objection.
Also move.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
And Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 7.
Items 7, 8, and 9 are somewhat related, although they do require separate votes by the Board of Trustees and motions. The first would be to appoint one member to the Westchester Township Zoning Commission to fill an expired 5-year term. This is the regular position of the Westchester Township Zoning Commission, and it is the term is from June 1st, 2013 through May 31st, 2018.
Okay, I'll take your nomination.
I'd like to nominate Bruce Fisher for the 5-year term from June 1st, 2013 to May 31st, 2018.
I would like to nominate Jim Williams.
Mr. Williams is the incumbent.
Pardon?
Mr. Williams, as you said, is the incumbent. Yeah.
Sorry.
Mr.
okay.
Williams is the incumbent.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. I'd like to withdraw my motion. I was looking at the wrong entry here on the agenda. Thank you.
So we have 2 nominations for Jim
I
Williams.
would like to, we don't need to second a nomination.
In that case, I'll make a resolution.
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion. We appoint Jim Williams to the regular member to the Zoning Commission to fulfill an expired 5-year term from June 1st, 2013 through May 31st, 2018.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 8.
The second appointment to the Westchester Township Zoning Commission is to fill an expired 3-year term, which is considered to be an alternate member. And that term will commence June 1st, 2013 and expire May 31st, 2016. The incumbent is Mr. Scott Gilliam.
I'll take the nomination.
Go ahead, Kathy.
At this time, then, I'd like to nominate Mr. Bruce Fisher to the alternate member. I thought, as usual, all of our people applying for the opportunity to work on this board were always outstanding, but Mr. Fisher just blew me away with his qualifications.
And I would like to nominate the incumbent, Scott Gilliam.
Shall we consider them one at a time?
Sure.
Or we can just call out the names?
I guess I can make my case for Mr. Gilliam, and then we'll let Mr. Wong decide where he's at.
Okay.
You know, Scott has been an incumbent, which in many ways is a thankless job for about 3 years now. But he's done a stellar job as an incumbent. He attends every meeting, even though he only gets to participate in probably 20 to 30% of the meetings. And it's a good thing he does, because he attended the Kroger meeting when he wasn't expected to participate. He attended the first one because a regular member couldn't make it at the last minute. And because he did that, he was able to stay there through the entire process and hear all the Kroger things. So I think Scott has just done a spectacular job as an incumbent, as an alternate. And I would strongly recommend that we continue with Scott in that role.
If I could make a case then?
Sure.
Everybody? I agree that Mr. Fisher seems to be an excellent person, as virtually all the people who serve on our boards are, and has done a very good job. Did you mean
Mr. Gilliam?
Excuse me, Mr. Gilliam.
Okay.
I think Mr. Fisher, though, also presents with some really stellar experience, which I think would be excellent for the board. He's lived in Westchester for 20 years. He served as a vice president in charge of claims for Cincinnati Financial for 40 years. He has served on the United Way board of Butler County. He has chaired the Fine Arts fundraising drive. In 2012, he chaired the board of trustees of his local church. He's served as treasurer for our Westchester Citizens Police Academy Alumni Association. I think he's a man like many of the people who apply for our boards, but to an exceptional degree has really shown outstanding community involvement and care for the community in a variety of ways. And I think he brings a lot to the board.
There's no doubt Mr. Fisher is a tremendous asset to our community, and his community involvement is every bit as good as Mr. Gillum's. You know, Mr. Gillum is also a vice president with Cincinnati Financial and Government Relations, and his community service is voluminous and well noted by many organizations. I don't have his resume in front of me, so I can't read you all of the different things, but I know he's been very active in numerous local charities and causes, and he's done a great job for the past few years. And as an incumbent, I mean, as the alternate, you know, you kind of work real hard waiting for a spot to open up, and I just don't think it would be right of us to put someone in there in front of him. Mr. Wong, what's your opinion?
We are very fortunate to have all the great candidates for this. This is the alternate zoning commission, and no doubt Mr. Scott Williams has also credential also. But Bruce Fisher, I would say that I was at the selection committee, that he really stands out. His background, and I think he stands out above the crowd on this one.
It's really kind of a shame we don't have twice as many committee positions to fill. We have so many excellent candidates every time that come down to volunteer.
So we'll do a motion.
I nominated Bruce Fisher, and Mr. Lang nominated Mr. Gillum, so I think we're kind of looking to see where you would like to
I'm going to go for Bruce Fisher.
Okay. Would you like to make the motion then?
I nominate Bruce Fisher as the
alternate.
Item 8.
Item 8.
Item 8,
Alternate member to the Westchester Zoning Commission to fill an expired 3-year term from June 1st, 2013 to May 31st, 2016.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
No, and it's not a no vote against Bruce Fisher. He's a very qualified, tremendous guy. I just think in this case there's a better individual that has been doing the job for a while.
Well, as we frequently mention to our wonderful applicants that apply, there are so many places that Westchester really needs to have volunteers, and I think Mr. Gillum, as well as most of our others, say, hey, look, if something else comes up, we'd love to be able to place them. And it does, as I've mentioned before, we actually have more volunteers most of the time working on Westchester projects. If you count in like all the senior van volunteers and the rascal volunteers, we have more volunteers than we have employees, which is kind of one of the outstanding characteristics of our community.
Okay. Ms. Boyko, item 9.
Item 9 is the last appointment, and is to the one member to the Old Westchester Architectural Advisory Committee to fill an expired 5-year term, June 1st, 2013 through May 31st, 2018. And the incumbent is Mr. Roger Staggy, and he is the only candidate.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we appoint Roger Staggy as a member of the Old Westchester Architectural Advisory Committee to fill an expired 5-year term from June 1st, 2013 through May 31st, 2018.
I'll second that. Discussion?
Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 10.
The Community Development Department would like the board to consider declaring 18 properties as public nuisances, and page 4 of your memorandum is a sample motion for your consideration.
I've got it on
Someone-
the screen.
will you read that?
Yeah. I'd like to, having reviewed the staff reports and affidavits, I move that we declare the properties listed on the Westchester Township Board of Trustees meeting agenda dated May 14th, 2013, to be public nuisances as authorized by the Ohio Revised Code, Staff is directed to cause removal of the nuisances identified and monitor these properties for 90 days to require continued compliance. An administrative charge of 25% shall be added to the contractor fee for these properties.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
It's that time of year again, although I do believe this is a record number. I don't ever remember
I've never seen this many.
this voluminous amount.
Yes. Grass grow real fast this time of the year.
It does.
Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 11.
We have several liquor permits for the board's consideration, or at least not to object to these new liquor permits. Item 11 is motion not to object to new liquor permit for 7770 Dudley LLC, doing business as El Toro Mexican Bar and Grill at 7770 Dudley Drive.
I will entertain a motion for item 11.
I'll make the motion that we not object.
I'll second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 12.
This is a motion not to object to a new liquor permit for Betty M. Vatter, doing business as Heritage Pub, 9303C, Cincinnati Columbus Road. This would be taking the space of the old Crooked Nail.
I will entertain the motion for item 12.
I'll make the motion that we not object.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 13.
Item 13.
13.
13.
Motion not to object to new liquor permit for Jeanette Adams, doing business as Jeanette's Delicacies, 5595 Beckett Ridge Boulevard, Suite B. It's my understanding that this establishment is replacing the previous caterer over the Beckett Ridge Country Club.
I will entertain a motion for item 13.
I'll make a motion that we not object.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 14.
Item 14 is an existing establishment, and they are requesting a not to object to a new liquor permit for Kalamata's Greek Grill Incorporated, 7690 Voice of America Center Drive.
I will entertain the motion for item 14.
Also move.
I'll second the motion that we not object, I assume, right?
Correct.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
Item 15.
A motion not object to a new liquor permit for Persian Nights Incorporated at Unit K, 7967 Cincinnati Dayton Road.
I will entertain the motion for item 15.
I'll make the motion that we not object.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Wong?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes.
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And prior to conducting citizens' comments, if it's the board's pleasure to do the proclamations, or we can do it after citizens' comments, whatever.
Let's do the proclamation first.
I'd like to first invite the police chief. We have three recognizing three of the departments. Their weeks vary between now and your next meeting, so we'd like to recognize the police department, the EMS division of the fire department, and also the community services department. So we'll do them one at a time. At the last meeting, I believe it was the last meeting, we honored and revered the efforts of our dispatch, emergency communications, and we talked about how they can be considered the first responders as well. And I think it goes without saying how much we acknowledge and appreciate the efforts of our police officers and all of the staff that supports those officers in anything from data collection to data entry, because that information is vital as they respond to any emergency dispatch call. And of course, the police chief and his command staff. And I think I would give it injustice to stand here and talk any further about it, but I just wanted to, on behalf of the Board of Trustees and the fiscal officer, Chief, present this to you in honor of commemorating Police Memorial Week, and I know that you'll want to share some of the importance of that event.
Thank you very much. Again, this week is Police Memorial Week, and tomorrow is Police Memorial Day, the 15th of May. It was designated many years ago by the President as Police Memorial Day. There were 127 law enforcement officers, that's federal, state, and local, that lost their lives last year. 2 from the state of Ohio specifically lost their lives in the line of duty, 1 in an accident and 1 in gunfire. Obviously, police work is very dangerous, and the service that our police officers provide this community, in my opinion, is second to none. They face the same dangers and daunting tasks that police officers across this country do, day in and day out. We're fortunate to have a great community, and we're fortunate to have great citizens to work with. And with that said, we appreciate and we enjoy the opportunity, and I know our police officers really enjoy the opportunity to police in Westchester. They appreciate the support of the board, Mrs. Boyko, Mr. Jones, and, you know, again, the support that you all provide to them to let them do their jobs safely and efficiently day in and day out. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Newhouse. I want to say that I myself was a police officer once before. I realized how tough the job it is for a police officer. It is very stressful. And today with the people run around with guns that police have constantly removed from the people, and that their job is not easy. And not most people don't realize that. They do a lot when most of us were sleeping at night. And I really appreciate what our police officer done in this township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, I also appreciate the work of the police department, and not just the men and women of the police department, but the families that support them as well. You know, that's I can't imagine what that must be like. And we appreciate not just the men and women that work for us, but the families they have that support them in their endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're very fortunate that we have to date not lost a police officer or police personnel in the line of duty, but we have come close. The fact is, every police personnel, he or she, as they go off to do their duty, they don't know if they're going to be coming home or not. I'm sure Matt Beiser and Jeff Dumas, when they were shot that day on a near Cincinnati-Dayton road, had any idea when they went out the door, kissed their wives, you know, as they left to go to work, that they were going to be shot. But they were. Every day, these men and women go out to keep us safe. And like I say, we've been fortunate that Matt and Jeff were both able to return to duty. That's not always the case around this country, and it's fit and proper for us to take some time to express our appreciation for our officers who have fallen and for those who every day are brave enough to go out the door to keep us safe and to face whatever that day might bring, no matter how difficult.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Ms. Boyko?
Chief Dollar and our EMS Captain Mr. Calley. As they're walking up, I'll introduce the week designated of May 19th through May 25th is Emergency Medical Services Week, and obviously all of our fire personnel are duly certified, both as firefighters and paramedics. And I think that they may be able to share some interesting statistics regarding our EMS, our total number of runs. And I think that's specifically designated to as the building code, building construction, all of those enhancements and improvements to those industries. We are obviously seeing safer and more proficiently constructed buildings. And so our responses to fire, fortunately, are not necessarily reducing, but they certainly are being contained. But we have seen the majority of our emergency runs from the fire department is to EMS types of services. So I think that this is an incredible time to really acknowledge the men and women who devote their time and efforts. And it's amazing the qualifications and the accreditations and the certifications that they have in order to treat as a first responder. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, Chief Feller and Fire Captain Kelly, EMS Captain, excuse me, I'd like to present this proclamation to you on behalf of the Board and the Fiscal Officer, and thank you very much for all of your dedicated service.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the board, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Boyko, for recognizing EMS Week as May 19th through May 25th. I think in the ever-changing landscape of the healthcare industry, we've really moved forward within the last 5 years specifically, but I foresee us in the future moving even further than that into an integral component of pre-arrival emergency medicine that's delivered in the field before we get these people to definitive care facilities, such as our quality hospitals in this area. So it's an honor to work with my colleagues over at the fire department, all of you, the citizens that we have in the community, And many of the fine police officers, the support group that we have through the IT department, our dispatchers, it's a great operation that we've got going. We're really blessed here in Westchester to deliver such a high-quality EMS service to our citizens, and it's an honor to do so for this community. In honor of doing that, what we're trying to do for EMS Week is get the word out there that we have, it's our first foray into this, but we're going to try to do kind of a mass CPR training for our community. And on June 1st, we're going to invite 100 people to come to the firehouse and learn how to do CPR and use an AED so that we can rely on them to kind of be the first responders in our community. So 100 may not sound like a lot, but in that course, what we're going to do is give each one of those participants a kit that they can take home to their family. It includes a small mannequin, a DVD, video, and a book that they can take, and we're going to ask them to train their family and or their neighbors, or both if they can, in the hopes of being able to get out into the community the word of early actions on their parts while they're calling 911, while they're waiting for us to get to the scene, can make the difference sometimes between life and death. So it's our goal to try to get them to participate with us as first responders and become part of our EMS community. So it's an honor to provide EMS services to Westchester. It is a challenging job, and it becomes more so as the healthcare legislation and rules that the government has in place continues to make us alter our options. But as Mrs. Boyko said, roughly 80% of the call volume that we experience in Westchester is emergency medically service related. So we are providing that services to over 80% of the calls that we make. And it gives us the opportunity to touch a lot of lives out there. Many of these people have no formal form of health care. And a lot of times they're experiencing the first time they need that healthcare system on their worst day. So it's a privilege and an honor to go out and provide that service within our community. Chief Dollar has any words?
Just like to echo Captain Kelly's thoughts and thank yous, and also to the board and to the citizens. And there's another gentleman we'd like to thank a lot, and that's our medical advisor, Dr. David Smile. He's been with us 23 years. And without his aggressive approach towards emergency medicine, I don't think we'd be where we're at with our first-class EMS service we have today. So he holds a lot for the way we operate, and he does review us quite often and frequently, and in the firehouse quite often. And so we have to give a tip of the hat to Dr. Smile for his help with our EMS system also.
Thank you.
Great. Chief Goller, Captain Kelly, I would just like to say, after living in the community over 20 years now, as anyone who's lived here that long, I've seen firsthand the work that you guys do as it relates to responding for emergency medical situations, and you guys are amazing. Professional, top-notch, the quality of care. I just applaud you, and we appreciate what you do, and we're glad you guys are there to care for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to agree with my colleague, Mr. Lang. I think it's also worth mentioning that Dr. Smile, who has dedicated so many years, I believe he's a volunteer himself, isn't he? He's never been paid for that, but his devotion to this community is just way beyond what anybody might assume anybody might contribute. The man's been amazing. And as you say, he's had a tremendous impact on the quality and professionalism of the service that you give. I like to believe that if you guys can reach somebody in an emergency system in time, they're going to survive to make it to the hospital. And your work is just so important. And I think our community understands that and believes that and supports you. I think you are well loved by the entire community.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Mr. Tim Frank, our services director, community services director, while he's approaching, I just wanted to share, I think that, we declare these weeks, or they've been declared these weeks as the fill-in-the-blank week, Memorial Week, or Public Services Week, or Public Works Week. And I know that for myself, being engaged and involved every single day in these activities with these fine men and women, I have to continually remind myself exactly how much they do and how much effort they do and dedication they do contribute. And I would ask the board and any resident that is ever interested in really understanding the details and the dedication that these men and women contribute, I really do invite you. Let me know, and we'll schedule time for you to tour or follow or shadow some of these employees. And I think many times our Public Works Division are the unsung heroes, and they go without a lot of notice and a lot of accolades just because they are behind the scenes. Everybody expects great roads. Everybody expects snow to be removed properly and plowed properly when they need to get to work that morning. And I think we take sometimes that for granted, that how wonderful of a job they do and how great of a job they do, but not really understanding how much goes into that type of planning and that type of organization. So I'm pleased to be able to recognize Mr. Frank and his tremendous leadership for the maintenance division, roads, parks, cemetery, all of those maintenance divisions. And I'm glad that we were able to commemorate May 19th to the 25th of this year as National Public Works Week. And again, I invite anyone, trustees, Mr. Jones, and any resident that is interested in really shadowing and understanding the depth of their work, please come. This year, I'm not sure if we're having the open house or anything like that. But we've had previously, and we certainly can engage the citizens in different ways to understand. So, on behalf of the board and fiscal officer, Mr. Jones, I'd like to present to you this proclamation, and thank you very much for everything you and your staff tonight.
Thank you very much on behalf of the Community Services Department. We appreciate the recognition this week, but we also appreciate the support that we receive year-round from the trustees and the fiscal officer and Mrs. Boyko, as well as the residents. We receive a lot of positive calls and feedback on the services that we provide, and we appreciate that support. So thank you very much.
Well, once again, we appreciate the work you guys do. The potholes, clearing the roads when there's snow. If you guys don't do a good job, the first responders can't be there when the emergency situation occurs. So, Tim, thanks to you and your crew for everything you guys do. You're appreciated.
Thank you.
You add a lot, and I think a lot of people don't realize it. To the average casual person driving through our community, perhaps even somebody who potentially might be looking at areas, perhaps they might want to relocate a regional office or bring their business to. What they see driving through our community is not the result of the work of our stellar police and emergency medical, as wonderful and as important as they are. What they see is the work of our public works people. They're seeing the excellent roads. They're seeing the neat, clean cemeteries and public buildings. The right-of-ways are kept tidy and well-maintained during snowstorms and ice storms. Our roads are cleared on a timely manner, and that's due to the hard work and dedication of you and your team. And it's important to Westchester. It's important to our well-being, and I think many times you're probably the unsung heroes of our development. And what you do is important, and we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now, at this time, Mr. Wong has left to attend his Butler County Emergency Management meeting. He is our representative this year on that important board. So as Vice President, if you could, Mr. Jones, have the record show that I'll continue the meeting going. We have very little left. We have no first readings, but we do have another citizen's comment at this time. If there is a resident or property owner or business owner that would like to address the board at this time, if you'd like to come forward and just give us your name and address. Mr. Rollman?
I'm Carl Ruhlman. I live at 8285 Ventle Drive in beautiful uptown Westchester. At a recent meeting, I described 4 primary reasons which have led to Westchester's growth and prosperity. The location astride I-75, the vision of certain active and involved citizens, the absence of an income tax, and the well-respected Lakota school system. My point was that township trustees were not highly instrumental in the overall development of Westchester. I do want to give some recognition to township trustees over the years who let it happen. Now, let it happen is a phrase with many interpretations as well. In Westchester's case, letting it happen means that local government did not stand in the way, did not overregulate, and was generally business friendly. I don't think anyone could believe with any logical arguments that business growth does not beget citizen prosperity. People enter into political activity for various reasons. one of which is a belief that they can help make things better or do things better. These citizens are not couch potatoes. They are active and involved citizens and are to be welcomed. And even when things are going well is a broad term, of course, they, as elected public servants, will want to spend or make laws that they believe will make things even better. I think this is human nature, but making too many laws starts to make things restrictive for some of the citizens. And when things aren't going well, how can more spending and more restrictions with a lower tax base possibly improve things? This is one reason why good politicians should serve for a short time and go home to their private lives. While active and involved citizens are to be welcomed, career politicians are to be shunned. Another problem that develops is that politicians with some power wish to aid their friends, family, associates, and supporters, another aspect of human nature. And this tendency becomes a higher priority for them. It is often to the detriment of others. Indeed, their initial entrance into politics may have been to gain power over others and over situations they wish to control. These are the negatives that give politics a bad name, and justly so. So elected public servants can best serve by concentrating on core competencies and get out of the way so that business and citizen freedoms are not disturbed. Perhaps core competencies should be called basic expected responsibilities. Competency is a hard word to pronounce. As good government should stay out of the way, the opposite is deadly. I need only cite Detroit, where a concentrated labor force, a superb gamut of transportation facilities, air, lakes and rivers, rail, interstates, etc. They had a prime Midwestern location and the hub of the huge American auto industry and its suppliers, and that was not enough to assure continued success and prosperity. So what happened? What happened to this city of 1.9 million in 1950, whose architecture evoked the reference Paris of the West, and whose population declined to just 710,000 in 2010? The answer is local government, with excessive spending and services, along with taxation and the liberal philosophy which has never created a stable, prosperous state anywhere, because they become overly restrictive of the population by lowering their incentives and opportunities. Of course, Westchester is nowhere near this condition. My point is that given the freedom from excessive government, the American people can create their own prosperity utilizing the freedoms enumerated in the U.S. Constitution. But governments at all levels, through their elected officials, can surely mess it up by foolish policies, like Detroit and our own national government's administration, and like our neighbor Cincinnati, which is showing similar symptoms and unwise decisions by its city council. Cincinnati has its streetcar debacle, and Westchester has its bike path. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roman. Would somebody else like to address the board? Yes, sir.
I'm Mark Morris. I live at 8876 Eagleview Drive. I came to actually get a clarification tonight over something that I discovered when I happened to be reviewing my Cincinnati Bell bill. I recently took advantage of the new cable that they offer in the Township, which is their new Optics. And when I was going over my bill, I found this charge that was called the government VSP charge. And I thought, well, this is another federal tax that I'm being charged. So when I questioned the Cincinnati Bell billing department, they informed me that it was an actual tax that Westchester Township is charging me. That Westchester Township charges a 3% tax on everyone's cable bill. The clarification I wanted to get is, what is it being charged for, and what are we doing with it? I live in Beckett Ridge, which has over 2,000 homes, and a quick calculation tells me that based upon a $5 charge, that the township's collecting $10,000 a month just on my community. So I can imagine what the total monthly charge is, and I really don't understand the necessity for it. Because number one, if it's for the Westchester Public Television, I don't receive it. Because I was told by Cincinnati Bell that the township signed an exclusive contract with Time Warner to only show that on their cable system. So I just came for a clarification on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Would somebody else like to address? Yes, sir.
Good evening, Stephen Clark, 7392 St. Ives Place in Westchester. I realize I'm going to talk a little bit about something that's a bit of ancient history, but I want to bring this up because I really didn't participate and I wasn't aware of a lot of what was happening at the time. The crosswalk at Eagle Ridge and Eaglet, I believe. I'm not going to debate the merit of the crosswalk. I've heard a lot of rumors and a lot of silliness over that. I believe it's called the Lee Wong Memorial Crosswalk. Rather derogatory term since, Mr. Wong is obviously still here with us, not tonight. But I'm curious if there's an itemization for the bill that for this crosswalk. If there is something that presents how much labor, how much materials, how much did the sign cost, how much did the striping cost. One of the things I've done in my rather bizarre resume that I have is I did a lot of estimating for a construction company. I started 23 years ago, and I understand that we paid about $4,800 for this crosswalk. And quite frankly, I do not see anywhere near $4,800 in this crosswalk. I don't see it in materials. I don't see it in labor. I know, I would also like to know the start date of construction and also the date which the resolution was passed to pay for the construction. It seems like it was done rather hastily. I recall that it was rather casually done because we had money left over in a budget. I find that objectionable. Just because we have money, therefore we spend it. But I'd like to know a little bit more about it. Specifically, I'd like to know if there's an itemization of this invoice that we received for approximately $4,800 for this crosswalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Would anybody else like to address the board at this time? Seeing nobody getting up, then I'll declare the citizens' comment period ending, and we can go on to trustee comments. Mr. Lang, did you have any?
Yeah, Ms. Boyko, regarding what Mr. Morris commented, I'm not asking you to respond to that, but can we prepare something to respond to it at our next meeting?
I can certainly respond this evening if you prefer.
Perfect, go ahead.
The tax that there are two proprietors in the greater Cincinnati area, and specifically to Westchester, that deliver cable access. Those proprietors are a part of a statewide, what they call the franchise agreement. Previously, the franchise agreements were not restricted, but were engaged by the general cities and the actual proprietors. Several years ago, the state enacted a statewide franchise agreement so that all proprietors that deliver cable access are engaged in the same agreement throughout the state of Ohio. So it streamlined the relationship between the provider, the state, and then also the consumer. Those two entities, of course, are Time Warner Cable and also Cincinnati Bell. Cincinnati Bell is new to the market. They have been engaged in Westchester for probably about the last 18 to 24 months, and there are pockets where they delivered specifically to some of the higher density areas. They are not delivering, and if just because you live in Westchester, you now cannot access Cincinnati Bell as your cable access provider. They have deployed their system to more of the higher density types of developments in Westchester, focusing mostly on the apartments and the condo developments. And so they are not yet widespread throughout the township. So the franchise fee is what it's called that the resident spoke, is exactly that. It is enacted by part of the state franchise agreement and is a franchise fee that can be collected by the local communities, whether or not they deliver local cable access. Cincinnati Bell, I'm not sure, I would like to know the name of the representative to whom they spoke, because I'm not sure why Cincinnati Bell alluded that Westchester has an exclusive agreement with Time Warner Cable, that they are the only ones that can deliver the local access programming. That's absolutely not true. It's my understanding that Cincinnati Bell has not yet, they had a certain amount of time based on the franchise agreement to develop their access and ability to provide the local cable access programming, and they have not yet finalized their ability to receive that and then to air that. So I certainly can check where they are in their process and be able to share with the trustees and the community how much longer it's going to be before they can access and provide the local programming.
Well, some of that local programming is available not just on local television providers, it's also available on streaming video over the internet off our website. For example,
not every program is, but yes, there are.
Not all programs, but like our meetings, trustee meetings, the zoning board meetings. And it's part of the funding which comes to the township. It's apparently been overlooked by the state legislature as far as cutting it back. I'm sure that could happen anytime. We never assume that it's going to last forever. We have it right now. We make use of it as best we can. But as I'm sure you're aware, anybody who reads the newspaper is aware, Westchester has lost millions of dollars a year in funding through say the estate tax, loss of the tangible personal property tax, devaluation of properties. I'm sure this will get reduced as well, but it's one of those things we do get a little bit. We, like every other community, just about in the town, in the state, we try to make the best use of we can to ensure that we have provide quality interaction and information about the activities of the township governance and administration to the people of the township.
Judy, is there a sunset clause on that cable agreement? In the back of my mind, there was a sunset clause.
Not to my recollection, no.
There's not? Okay.
There has been, as the technology advances, there certainly has been some discussions among the legislatures to just completely do away with the franchise fee. And that's not only occurring at the federal level, but also at the state level. To date, though, there has not been any absolution or termination of that franchise fee.
Well, I can certainly understand Mr. Morris's frustration if he's being taxed for something and his provider isn't providing the benefits of that tax.
We certainly will follow up with Cincinnati Bell and be able to find
200 years ago, they would have said, no taxation without televisation. And I've been a long proponent. We should stop televising these meetings anyway. I think they'll be much shorter. The three of us are going to talk a lot less. So.
It doesn't take television for me to talk interminably. Friends could advise you of that.
Yeah, I would like to respond to what Mr. Ruhlman said. First of all, Carl, I agree with you 100%. But if you look at Detroit back in 1950, what the leaders of that community did not have was the ability to look forward to unintended consequences. They were rocking and rolling, the money was coming in, and they thought it would never end. So they started spending the money. They built infrastructure. And in my opinion, it's the same risk we as Westchester run right now. Things are fine. We're going to be fine for the next 3 to 5 years. But if we look 10 to 15 years down the road, and as Ms. Stoker pointed out, we're already losing multiple revenue sources. So it's up to us to be good stewards of the money and avoid the Taj Mahals, avoid the unnecessary parks, avoid the unnecessary bike paths, in my opinion, and other things that are not a core competency. If we just focus on our core competency, and I like that word, sorry, if we just focus on our core competency and not get into the extra frivolous things that ultimately lead to the demise of the community, and I shouldn't say that as a 100% assertion, but I certainly can supply anybody with a tremendous amount of empirical data to back up that statement that that is often the case, we'll be fine. But it's up to us, as you pointed out, to be good stewards of the money. So I just agree with everything that you stated. And Brent, the crosswalk was debated. I can give you a whole file and a whole bunch of stuff on it. I happen to agree with what you said. I think it was poor government. It was done hastily. We did not have time to review. Decisions were made on the spot. And I was very frustrated with that entire process. And my frustration is a matter of public record. I'm not frustrated with the crosswalk. I'm just frustrated with the bastardization of the system, if you will.
Yeah, and I think, Mrs. Boyko, if you could provide a statement, I'm sure that's readily available, of the cost, the itemization of the cost of the crosswalk. I agree with a lot of what you say, Mr. Lang, that it is absolutely essential no matter how things are going. And Westchester is doing better than a great many communities around us. Not just out of sheer luck or location, but also because of hard work on the part of our board and staff. Every time somebody retires or goes to work for some other entity, we sit down and ask, do we really need to fill that position? Or can we perhaps rearrange our workload or our responsibilities and job descriptions and get by without it? Over the past 10 or 12 years, we've eliminated about 20 positions doing that. We're saving currently about, what is it now, last count, $1.275 million a year, because we are constantly being concerned, just as Mr. Roman pointed out, constantly being concerned, how can we provide the services we need more leanly? We are constantly aware of the fact that we are losing revenue, state revenue right and left. And we have to still provide what I like to call essential services. I agree a lot of what you say with that. We differ, I think, on our definition between what is an essential service and what is a core competency a little bit. But I think in the spirit, I think we're in agreement. We have to be careful. We have to, when times are good, reserve as best we can while still providing the services that our community expects. You may not include, for example, parks in core competency. I do include parks. I include all kinds of infrastructure. To me, transportation isn't just roads, it's also bike paths. That doesn't mean to me we should spend as much on bike paths as we do on roads, but from time to time, like with the current project we're looking at, if we can put in a little section which then brings together privately constructed bike paths, like through Beckett Ridge and through the villages across 747. I think that our residents then get good value for their money, and we can disagree on that. I realize that good people can disagree on from time to time without meaning that they are
I would just like to point out, as it relates to bike paths, according to a May 8, 2011 article of the Cincinnati Enquirer, which has bike paths in the greater Cincinnati area, Westchester has more bike paths per square mile than any other community around. We're already the leaders in this.
They're lumping in privately constructed bike paths.
Sure, right? As they are
because
for everybody. As they are for all of the communities, no doubt about it. And that's because one of the things we have done over the years is we've told developers, if you want to develop, this is what we expect, and the developers have complied. Some of them wanted to do it because it increased the value of their property. So we do count the privately held ones, as we should, because they are there for the public. The privately developed ones and privately maintained ones don't restrict other people from using their bike paths. So according to the Cincinnati Enquirer, we already have more than anybody else. And when we do it with private dollars, that's the way for us to do it. That doesn't affect the taxpayers, especially when the private communities that develop it take on the maintenance of it. Because the actual construction of the property is a very small part of the overall cost of the development, or the bike path or the walk trail, if you will, that we do. So we already have more than anybody else in the greater Cincinnati area, according to the Cincinnati Enquirer. And to me, police, fire, and roads are so much more important. And right now, when we're already doing better than everybody else, for us to even consider spending more money just because we've got it, I agree with Mr. Clark that is something that's objectionable.
And like I say, I think reasonable people can disagree. It's my personal belief that I believe our residents appreciate the fact that with this connector, families on a nice Saturday and Sunday afternoon can get together and ride their bikes across 747 and up to Beckett Park. I think they'll appreciate it. They can stop in at Nathan's or Brewster's and have an ice cream cone with that connector. Without the connector, I think most families would think that it wasn't safe to do that. But because of that connector, it makes miles of private bike paths then open up, and it allows families to get not just to parks, but also to the businesses along 747, or over to the library perhaps for a day at the library. I think there's value there, and I believe our residents expect that. And as we have heard, we've had an outpouring of support from the community of people who say, yeah, let's do that. This is something that we want in our community. This is something that we as members of this community, as family members, see a value in and want to have provided for us.
I think there have been an outpouring of support on both sides, both for and against it. And all of the support that I've seen that was for it are people that will be directly impacted, combined with people whose businesses are going to benefit. I don't blame those people for supporting it. But using that logic, where is the line of demarcation? We can continue to build connectors, continue to build bike paths to bring every single community together, and guess what? We're going to have to tell the police, the fire, and the roads department, sorry, we don't have the money anymore. That is flawed logic, in my opinion, because there's no line of demarcation. If it works here, this little connector is going to work over here. There's a little connector that makes sense over here. And all of a sudden, our core competencies are going to be put at risk.
Well, that's where I think our residents and our businesses rely on having a sensible board of trustees that can make these decisions, that can look at each individual project and say, is this a project that would be worthy of spending some taxpayers' money? Is there a reasonable return on investment for our residents and for our businesses? Now, there have been times, for example, along Dimmick Road at the 42 improvement, where we considered putting in some sidewalks there. The residents affected said, we'd rather you didn't. So we said, okay, we listened to the people. We said, fine. And we didn't build that. You know, that saved us about, what, $250,000?
Yeah, no doubt. And the other thing we need to do, though, and Mr. Welch brought it up a couple meetings ago, is look at alternate funding sources. Is there a way to do this with private dollars? Maybe there is. We're not even considering that as an option.
Well, I have no problem. There is nothing stopping any citizens group from, say, getting together fundraising and adding to the funds that we have established already through the solid waste funds for to help us with maintenance. Right now, there is probably enough funding in there to provide maintenance for at least 10, probably 20 years of the system that we have in place.
I would be shocked if that were an accurate statement.
Well, when you consider there's $100,000 right now in that fund, and when the township is spending approximately $1,500 a year maintaining the sidewalks, the bike paths that we currently have, and looking at how much is it? They might have to spend $50,000 every 10 or 20 years, depending on how heavily it's used for resurfacing. That to me says that fund could maintain for at least 10 years, if not 20. What I'm saying, the point I'm making is that if there is nothing to stop, I think, people who are interested in maintaining our bike paths from having fundraisers and adding to that fund.
Yeah, but for us to say that the maintenance is that low, I think that's a very disingenuous. We spend more than $1,500 a year just to maintain the bike path in my community, which is very small. And it's only a fraction of the bike paths that are in Westchester. And we have no idea And for us to sit here and try to speculate what's going to happen to future cost would
wait a
not be a
minute.
good use of our time.
I must have misunderstood what you say. Are you saying that your privately owned and operated and maintained bike paths, they spend more money to maintain theirs than we as a
No, I didn't say that at all. What I
government,
said is we spend
maintain?
more than $1,500 a year on maintenance.
Let me ask.
Get an accurate
Mrs.
understanding of what I'm saying.
No, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying Weatherington alone spends more than $1,500 a year maintaining their hiking, biking paths.
Yes.
How much is the township spending to maintain our current bike paths a year, approximately?
There are two currently maintained multi-path systems in Westchester. One, of course, is the Port Union Bike Trail, and the other one is the one that's adjacent to Beckett Road as it comes down the hillside to the barn. And my recollection is, based on information I received from our finance director, is that we spend about $1,500 a year in maintaining.
$1,500 a year on what, Judy?
Whether it be crack seal, just materials for crack seal.
So on the actual supplies that we put in there?
No, yes.
Yeah. See, that's a problem with government accounting. They look at the supplies. They don't take in all of the activity-based costing that goes along with that supplies. The supplies are going to be by far the smallest portion of the cost.
Well, if I may, but we do take some of the activity-based accounting into transferring into this, is that those employees obviously are not hired just to, nor are trucks or equipment to place that Durapatcher is not hired, is not deployed, nor are the personnel hired just to maintain the bike path. Yeah. So their division of labors and their economies of scope are obviously greater beyond than just this.
But you're
so
taking a proportion.
But my point is we don't amortize
costs.
Even the cost of fuel of getting them out there. We say the materials cost us $1,500, and that's just an inaccurate way for us to measure this.
I'm not sure if that's what Mrs. Boyko is saying. Did you also include in the $1,500 the proportionate cost of the township's overall maintenance of roads?
No, Mr. Lang is exactly correct. This identifies the supply cost for them. However, because there is an asterisk to that statement, though, and that is that we do account for some of the other activities that are involved in, is that because we do not hire employees just to take care of bike paths. So their costs are attributed and spread out over the core competencies of why those employees are hired, why those trucks are purchased, while that Durapatcher is done. And this is such an insignificant. We have like 1.6 lane miles of bike paths, and the cost when you take 220 plus lane miles of roadway, and those are the core competencies, use your term, of where those activities costs are assigned. So would I then, from a proportionate share, take a percentage of 1.6 miles to the 220 plus that we have? I could probably take our entire roads budget and say it's another 0.02% of those costs, or 0.002%. So, but he is accurate. But I think the cost, once you do the activity account
is that what you're saying?
Once you do the activity accounting basis, the percent is very insignificant compared to the economies of scope of what those employees and those trucks and those equipments are deployed.
So I think, do we have anything else you'd like to discuss?
Just this weekend, unfortunately I'll be out of town, I'll miss it, the Rotary Barbecue Bash. I'd encourage everyone to attend. It sounds like it's going to be a blast. And if you like barbecue and beer, I think you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, it's a great event. It helps raise funds for local charities. Certainly appreciate anybody who likes barbecue. This is a good time to get out and maybe see a little bit close up of the VOA facility. It's improved dramatically through the work of the township and through the volunteers who work on the Voice of America. I'd also like to mention that we've been very fortunate in the growth of our hospital. I don't know if anybody's been watching the paper over the last few months. They finally opened up the top floor. Business is going great for them. They are making their numbers, and not only, it's sort of like a multiplier factor, as you're fond of using. Not only is the hospital thriving and providing hundreds of jobs in our community, but all the medical industry, which is collected around the hospital, is also thriving. The office vacancy rate for those offices near the hospital are virtually at 98 to 100%. It's been an excellent project in our community. Provides full service, round-the-clock emergency medical care. Very fortunate to have it, and I'm very pleased to see it's doing so well.
I would concur.
So do we have anything at this time? If not,
I move we adjourn.
okay. Let me just ask, do we have any meetings afterwards, any executive session? No. Thank you. I'll second that motion. Discussion. Mr. Jones, if you'll call the roll.
Mrs. Stoker?
Yes?
Mr. Lang?
Yes.
And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.